Ahoy, Nakama, and welcome aboard, or walk the plank. We're your co-captains, Adam and Ed, and this is the Void Century Podcast. Your weekly deep dive into One Piece lore, lost treasures, and the wildest fan theories from the Grand Line to the Void Century. From ancient secrets to Yonko chaos and fresh chapter breakdowns, if you're chasing Laugh Tale, you're in the right crew. Yarg! Hit subscribe and let's set sail. Hello, and welcome back to the Void Century Podcast, here today to bring you episode 42, chapter 1161 of One Piece, a love ballad in a hail of arrows. This chapter, we actually get a color spread. It's a really good one. Ed, do you want to take us away on the color spread?
Yeah, normally we don't really go over the color spreads, but this one is just so fun and whimsical that I just really wanted to talk about it. So basically what's going on is the Straw Hat crew, they're in like a game center, kind of like, think like either Round One or Dave and Buster's, and they're playing the crane games, and inside the crane machine there's just a bunch of different like pirates or figures from the One Piece world. And yeah, they're collecting like pirate plushies, like so plushies themed after like Whitebeard or Shanks and stuff like that. And it looks like in the center of it we've got Luffy and Nami, and they're fighting over the plushie of Chopper, and they're both pulling on his cheeks. And we can see that Luffy actually probably has the most plushies, and it's just he's collecting all his favorite people. So we got like Shanks, Ace, Sabo, we've got Garp, we got Rally, who was the one who trained him in the time skip, and Whitebeard. And he's got a few other people that are kind of like falling off of him, such as Carrot, Boa Hancock, Kinemon, and Yamato. And then Nami, she's carrying like her favorite people, including like Bellamy, Vivi. What's her sister's name again?
Nojiko?
Yeah, Nojiko. And then the mayor of like that windmill town, I forgot his name, but he's got all the scars on his face. And then like this like clown looking guy from like the Wadaria. And then we also see Sanji, and all of his plushies are various women in the One Piece world, including Nami and Violet and others. Yeah, it's just really cute. And then inside the claw machine, we have Chopper. So it looks like they're trying to save Chopper. I think that Chopper went inside, and he was trying to get Hiralik and Dr. Kureha, probably, because they're both still inside there. We actually also see Clover, and I think it looks like J. Garcia Saturn, the Gorosei. But yeah, Chopper's inside there crying, and we have Brook also inside there, and he's kind of like imitating the claw machine claw. And yeah, he's actually like lined up to pick up Chopper, and we have Usopp who's controlling the joystick for the claw machine. And yeah, he's getting ready to skillfully grab Chopper with Brook's help.
I just want to say two things. I think it's totally in Sanji's character, but a really bad look that he would only grab women and leave his poor guy Zeph just sitting there all alone. Like, he gave you his leg, Sanji. His leg, just so that you could run away with all the ladies.
I don't even think I see a Zeph in here at all.
Oh, Zeph is to the left of Chopper. You can see his little hat, his little pointy hat on his mustache.
Oh, you're right. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
And then I think it's really funny that Luffy is actually wearing a shirt with a Jolly Roger on it that doesn't look like the Straw Hat's Jolly Roger. Like, Luffy, whose team are you on?
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting. Like, normally the Jolly Rogers in the One Piece universe, they have like the skull with the crossbones like behind the skull, whereas this one, they're not crossbones, they're swords with like a curved blade, and they're underneath instead of behind. And then if you look inside the claw machine, next to Brook, there's actually like a claw that's part of the claw machine that has the same Jolly Roger, it looks like. So it's got swords underneath, crossbone swords underneath a skull. So I'm thinking that maybe like in this game center, Luffy might have just won this shirt, and it's just kind of like possibly the branding of this particular like pirate themed game center. So yeah, we also see Zoro. He's got the Mihawk plushie, and he's like resting and sleeping on a giant Shirahoshi plushie, which is kind of funny. I don't think he cares that like he's collecting the Shirahoshi doll. He's just using her as a pillow. There's a couple of other giants, including Dorian Bragi. And then yeah, so Zoro and Jinbei are both sleeping. And then the rest of the Straw Hats are mostly like focused on the claw machine and the rescue of Chopper. So that kind of covers the cover story. It's really fun one. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend looking at it. It's really fun. And then moving forward, we'll get to the chapter. We got the cover story, and they're in the Holy Inari Shrine, and it's actually three people. It's Yamato, Kinemon, and Momonosuke. Remember, Momonosuke is all grown up now, at least physically. And we see a bunch of sakura petals like in the background, but there's in the forefront they're all kind of like praying and bowing towards a bunch of these lanterns. And they're all written in Japanese, but I'll just like read out the ones that we can actually make out. So we got Kozuki Oden, Kozuki Toki, Shimosuke Yasuie, Uzuki Tempura, Fugetsu, Omu, Omusubi, Shimosuko Ushimaru, Taka, Izo, Pedro, Kura, we don't know like their full name, and then Ashura Doji. So yeah, they're just kind of paying their respects to those in the Kozuki clan or like the vassals that have passed away.
And getting into the chapter 1161 proper, we get God Valley again. We see that tensions are heating up on the island. It's become an inescapable flashpoint. We see that the Marines are trying to escort celestial dragons through one of the evacuation routes, while we see the Roger pirates are frantically looking for Shakky. Rox himself is actually looking for his wife and child, and it's actually confirmed that Rox's partner, his significant other, her name is Eris, right? And if we go back a couple chapters, the name Eris might actually be significant. When we saw that Gunko was possessed by Emu and went demon mode, Gunko actually had a summoning circle, and some people in the community have noticed that on the edges of that summoning circle was like this weird runic writing. Some of it actually looks like it could translate or transcribe the name Eris, D, with a period after it. So it's very interesting. Ed, you got more?
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting because it might signify that Teach, Marshall D. Teach, is actually a D from both sides of his family, similar to Ace. So both his mother and father might be Ds.
Yes, that's very significant. We know that Rox had a special bloodline. We know that Blackbeard has a special body, so we can only assume that perhaps his mother's blood or lineage is significant in some way. But her name is actually significant. If we want to do a little bit of a deep dive, Eris in Greek mythology was actually a goddess of chaos, if you will. And she was actually one of the primary motivating forces in the Trojan War.
Yeah, and also another interesting thing is that it says Eris D. Tar in that pentagram. And so like what could Tar be? Tar could potentially be shortened for Tartarus, which if we continue on with like the whole Greek mythology angle, Tartarus is kind of like the deepest pits of the underworld where they like all the worst demons or I guess in this case it was titans, but anybody who's like, you know, the worst of the worst that go to the underworld, they end up in Tartarus. So yeah, it might be related. It's kind of like might be related to like the whole summoning circle aspect and how they're summoning demons or turning people demonic type of thing.
Yes, it's a lot of great context. Thanks, Ed. If we want to snap back into the chapter a bit, we actually see a close up of Monkey D. Garp's face, and he's looking frantically for Roger. And then we actually see Dragon. I think this is the first time we actually see Dragon in his trademark cloak, and he's got Shamrock and Shanks in his arms, and he's trying to run away to escape to get the babies to safety. He's just saying, oh, just hang in there just a little bit longer. He's actually looking for the Navy ships. So we can only assume he's trying to get them on a Navy ship. And then out of nowhere, he sees a bit more pirates. And behind him, we actually see there's a shadowy figure. And then we see one of the previously seen God's Knights, the one that looked like Rimu Shifu. actually with the teeth and the glasses on, speaking on a Denden Mushi, saying that they actually spotted Dragon carrying the children, and out of nowhere, this God's Knight unleashes like a beam weapon out of their mouth that pierces Dragon's shoulder, and we see it's such an impactful attack. He actually falls forward with the babies in his arms. And going forward, we actually see that this God's Knight really affected Dragon and really hurt him mortally. We actually see the babies themselves have fallen out of his arms in the attack, and this is really kind of shaken Dragon. We see one of the babies has actually been dropped in between Dragon and this God's Knight, and we see this God's Knight wander over to pick up one of these babies, which appears to be Shamrock. And then the baby starts crying uncontrollably, as expected. And we get a reveal of this person's name to be the God's Knight, Satchel Saint Maffey.
Yeah, I want to point out her design a little bit. Like, so she's got these like devil horns as well as like in between her horns. It looks kind of like a volcano type shape. I'm not sure if she has like a volcano on top of her head necessarily, but it's kind of just interesting because it does look kind of like a mountain or a volcano.
Yes, that surely is an interesting style for a bouffant, if you will.
Sure, yeah.
So we get this person is actually announced to be Saint Maffey from the Satchel family, even though this person, she looks very similar to a Rimu Shifu, actually, like Killingham Rimu Shifu, who we know was introduced earlier. So again, this is another new family that has been released in terms of the Celestial Dragon. So I just wanted to recount a little bit on the Celestial Dragon families. We have the Neronas, the Figurlins, Shepherds, Don Quixotes, Roswalds, Manmares, Bavets, Killingham, and now the Satchels. And on top of that, we also have the surnames for the Gorosei. So assuming they don't change, we have Marcus, Topman, Ethan Barron, Jay Garcia, and possibly Nefertari. So we have 13, possibly 14 of the Celestial Dragon families being named. So we are getting pretty close to getting all of them. But if you want to snap back a little bit, this attack really did affect Dragon quite a bit. I don't know if we've ever seen Dragon shirtless in the series, but certainly he's got to bear a scar for all this somewhere. Like, this has really knocked him out. This attack was really powerful. And we see Dragon lying on the ground, reaching out towards a child, actually. And yeah, he's thinking to himself, I allowed all these people on God Valley to die. The least I could do is try to protect these children to kind of atone for my sins. We actually see Saint Maffey rears back and attempts to stab Dragon and pierce him. And Dragon is like resigned to himself, uncharacteristic of the D. He's not smiling right now in the moment where he thinks he's going to die. And he's thinking to himself, oh, I guess this is true atonement for my sins. I guess I deserve this. And out of nowhere, we actually see a giant sweeping sword attack that cut the whole forest pretty much in half, bisected with a bicento, if you will, including Saint Maffey, who has been completely pierced. And we see Whitebeard and Big Mom arguing with each other. And basically, Big Mom is questioning as if whether or not Whitebeard attacked her. And they're looking around, and Dragon is kind of like hunched back a little bit, looking up at them. And he's like, wow, they are so big. Satchel was pierced completely. However, I don't think Satchel is completely out of the fight. We know that the God's Knights are able to regenerate. We've seen this feat previously by Summers. So we can only assume that Satchel is going to be back and coming after Dragon very shortly. So we get back to the Rocks Pirates actually fighting amongst themselves. Dragon staring up at them in amazement at how large these people are. And we actually get Shakky joining the fray, and he's complaining that Whitebeard's attack was too strong. Kaido shows up too, and Kaido's like, hey, Lin, we didn't agree to sit and waste time around here. Like, we got to get me a devil fruit. And we see some fodder pirates randomly recognizing the rocks pirates, and they're trying to collect their
Wait,
bounties.
hold up. They're
And
Marines, not pirates, I think.
oh, my
Oh
my
no, they are
mistake. Sorry.
pirates. No, they are pirates. Never mind. I thought they were Marines, but it does look like they're wearing like pirate hats. Never mind.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So it looks like there's possibly more than one pirate faction besides the Roger and the Rocks pirates that are actually on the island.
I guess everyone, even if they're not Rocks or Roger pirates, they're trying to still claim the prize of Shakky. Everyone wants Shakky.
Hey, she's the most famous woman in the world. So yeah, so basically to your point, Shiki actually comments that all these pirates are after Shaki too. And we actually get a pretty cool panel of all the Rocks pirates unleashing a gigantic attack. And I just have to say, I would love to see the Rocks pirates do a combination attack. I really think we need this in the series in God Valley. I hope we go a little further with a combo attack than this. I mean, I would love to see the Rocks Pirates, do the docking pirate emperor, if you will. I think that would be an awesome callback. Love to see it.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're cohesive enough to really do something like that. Unfortunately, they don't have that like same bond that the Straw Hats have. Like even in the Straw Hats, Nico Robin refuses to join that. So it's I don't see it happening, but it would be really cool. A different type of combo attack in general would be really cool to see. So moving back to the chapter, Saint Matthew is kind of shocked, saying like, "What's going on in this island? Like, we don't like what's going on." She's still holding Shamrock in her hand, but she's just like kind of confused that there's so many pirates there because it's supposed to be like a secret thing. Like up until this point, nobody even knew that the hunting games were like a real thing. It was like maybe a rumor, a remote rumor that most people didn't know about. And then we see that Dragon is resolved to save at least one of the babies. So he grabs Shamrock, or sorry, he grabs Shanks. But as he goes to grab Shanks, we see that baby Shanks has a big bump on the side of his head, and it really reminds me of Dragon Ball with Kid Goku when he got bonked in the head as a young child and kind of developed that amnesia to change his personality from being that like evil Saiyan, he became more docile and happy. I think this is a direct call back to Dragon Ball, and it's really cute. Like he's got these X's as for his eyes. It's just he looks really cute, but like poor baby Shanks. And then next we actually see Monkey D. Garp, and he's got like a hockeyed fist, and he's like, "Oh, I found a prime fishing spot." He caught up with the Rocks pirates, and he goes to attack the Rocks pirates, and we see the Rocks pirates, the main pirates who actually become the three of the Yonko, Whitebeard, Linlin, and Kaido, all running away, and they're like, "We gotta run! Like we know Garp is no joke. Like if we stay to fight, it's just gonna take too long, and we really want to get the grand prize of Shaki and those deviled fruits." And I don't know, maybe this is the first time that the Rocks pirates have met up with Garp specifically. We know that Garp, he mostly focuses on Goldie Roger. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting that Whitebeard and Big Mom were like, hey, this is Garp. Like, we don't want to fight against him. He'll just slow us down. And Kaido's like, yeah, let's do it. Almost like he doesn't really realize exactly how powerful Garp is. So this might be the first time they've met up in a fight.
It's very possible. At the very least, they're aware of his reputation. Like he is like a badass. Like people know who Monkey D. Garp is. He is a force to be reckoned with. But of course, Kaido, he's always looking for a good fight. So he does want to at least challenge Garp a little bit. And then we see that Linlin backs up and she's trying to get Garp off her tail. So she uses her Heavenly Fleur Blitz attack. And this is like her attack where she gets Prometheus and Zeus. We've seen her do this in the manga, like in the present day, but she shoots like a giant energy beam. Like it takes up like the whole panel and it directly hits Garp. And then we see it flashes over. We see like a giant explosion in the distance, and we see Ivankov and Kuma saying like, "What's going on? What's that explosion?" And Ivankov's like, "You know what? We can't focus on this. This is our chance to run away." And Kuma agrees. And then we flash back. Oh, go ahead, Adam. You have anything to say?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that when we actually see Big Mom do this attack, Dragon actually sees it too. And I think this is the first time in the whole series Dragon actually recognizes Garp as his father. So I think it's pretty significant.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we don't really see much dragon in general, so it's cool to like finally have that written confirmation that they are directly related. Like there's been some interesting theories that maybe dragon married into the monkey family, but I think that this is a confirmation that he is directly Garp's son. So yeah, we flash back over to Garp, and his body is completely black. It's either like shadowed out or maybe he's armament hockeyed up, but he was just like unfazed. Like he's saying how this isn't hot enough to even cook prime ribs. So he's taunting Lin Lin. I think that this might even be before she's called Big Mom. Like she might just be called Lin Lin. She might just be known as Lin Lin at this point. And
It's true.
yeah. So yeah, I think that Lin Lin is sweating. She's running away, and I don't know if they're gonna make it before the Roger Pirates to the center at this point.
We actually, as expected, we see Saint Maffy. She's just chilling, talking on the Den Mushi again, looking at Shamrock in her hands, and she's like, the kidnappers are probably dead, and I've secured the baby. That's good enough. So I just wanted to kind of question a little bit, like, who's she talking to? Like, who is supposed to be expecting to watch the twins? Do you think it was just like some fodder in the Celestial Dragons or the Gods Knights just watching Garling's children, or do you think it was somebody that we know? Also, I think it's pretty significant that she mentioned secured the baby. We know that she approached Dragon from behind, so I think it's very interesting. Perhaps she's not aware that there were actually multiple children that Dragon was carrying in his arms. Perhaps perhaps she didn't realize that there were twin children. And from this panel too, we also do see the character design. She is wearing a boa similar to Doflamingo. So I wonder if there's any kind of connection there too, at least with the character design. As a flashback, we do see Dragon running away, and we see him carrying Shanks in his arms with the big bump on his head, and we see the Dragon's signature armband, actually, which he later gets tattooed on his face. And he's apologizing to Shanks, and he says, I may not be able to help your brother, but at least I'm going to save you. And then we do see the strange man mayor, and seems to be racking up points, saying, pirate or townsfolk, none of you are going to escape. And she's using her gun to shoot all the rabbits and the pirates alike. So it's just pure chaos and bedlam out there. We actually get an overview. We see the Marines, and they're taking the lay of the battlefield. And we get the board, if you will, the reversey board, the go board. We get the grid. We currently see God Valley. We see the Celestial Dragons are escaping through that secret passage, as we saw earlier. And we see the Rocks and the Roger Pirates are both approaching the center of the island, one from the north, one from the south. And they are going to meet in the middle, in between that giant split mountain. So things are really heating up.
Oh wait,
And we see
I want to also point out that there is like a hidden passage that goes through the east side of the mountain, that's where the Marines are. They're using this like hidden passage to escort all the Celestial Dragons safely to the east side of the island.
That's true. So yes. So the Roger and the Rocks pirates are meeting in the middle, and the Celestial Dragons are working their way to the east of their island through a secret passage through one side of the split mountain. And we see that it's just pure chaos out there. Everybody's scrambling to try to get Shakky back. And we see that the Rocks and the Rogers crew are meeting in the middle. We get actually a spread of the Rocks crew rushing to the middle of the island, and we see Gloriosa, and we see Silver Axe, and we see who's actually pushing Shiki in the face. And then we actually see Captain John. For once, he's not drinking, and he's actually doing something. And we see he has a mysterious arm, which looks similar to the robotic arm that Eustace Kid makes for himself. So perhaps Captain John and Eustace Kid have the same devil fruit, because mechanical arms just aren't very common in One Piece. So, a speculation for the future, if you will. We actually see that things are really heating up. We get a shot of the town, and everybody's scrambling to check on Shakuyaku, on Shakky, and we see that Summers himself has come to actually check on Shakky, and he opens up the door to the dungeon, and he's staring face to face with Shakky, who has incapacitated all of her guards, and Summers is he's kind of flabbergasted. He's like, don't tell me that all of these guards were just taken out by, a chained up woman. And Shakky smiles like indignantly, and she comments on how the pirates outside that have come to save her are really ruining the plans of the world nobles right now. And Summers, with pure absolute scumbag energy, if I didn't hate Summers enough, I really hate him now, and I apologize for hating a character, but Summers deserves it. He then says there's nothing more distasteful than seeing a woman who knows her worth as he strikes Shakky in the face, and I cannot begin to reiterate exactly how scummy Shepard is. I hate his character.
Yeah, this kind of solidifies him as, one of the most hated God's Knights for me as well. Just, hitting earlier too, like we saw him just like slaying a child, and now he's hitting a woman. So he's just kind of like one of the worst of the worst. And then also after Shakky gets hit, we see her kind of like recoil with that slap, and she's kind of like bending over, but then she kind of uses that as momentum, and she does like a roundhouse kick that would make even Sanji proud. And we can see that it hurt Summers a lot because his reaction is like utter pain. He remarks, ouch. He grabs her leg, and he gets ready to like hit her with a spiked club. And then that's actually what he does. It's actually off panel because it's disturbing, but he hits her with that spiked club. Shacky's on the ground, she's bleeding, and he says that, you know what? There's no way that I'm gonna win you as a prize. It's gonna be Garling, so like why not just, kill you here and now? There's nothing in it for me to keep you alive. So what he plans on doing is he's just gonna make it look like she just kind of died in the fray so that he won't, take fault or blame for it and Garling won't go after him. And he says that it would be unfortunate to survive hell just to find your loved ones dead. Do you want to talk about this part, Adam?
Yeah, I just think it's a weird parallel that he's like, oh, you come this far, you survive hell just to find your loved ones dead, but he's literally doing this to like Rox and all the other residents of God Valley. Like with this tournament, like Rox is crossing the ocean and the seas to come all this way just so he could find his wife and his child, like, deceased. If the Gods Knights had their way, that's the way it would be. So I think it's really scummy. Like, this guy is like really bad, but the fact that he finds like pleasure in all of this is it's so like stomach churningly gross.
Yeah, it just kind of really just goes to show how like evil the celestial dragons are, and the Gods Knights, they're not normal celestial dragons. They can back their bark, they got the bite along with the bark, whereas like a normal celestial dragon, they're usually like weak. But yeah, so outside of that like imprisoned area that Shaggy's in, directly outside of it actually, we see that the Roger pirates and the Rocks pirates finally collide and meet up. And we actually see it's Goldie Roger and Edward Newgate. They clash, and for what might be the first time, we've seen a similar clash between Whitebeard and Roger in the past. This one is still a hockey clash, but it's not as much black lightning coming from their blades, but it's still a really powerful panel. And we see a bunch of the pirates that are surrounding them that just kind of get blown back by this hockey clash. And then we get a bunch of pirates from both sides, both the Rocks and the Roger pirates, as well as just other unaffiliated pirates saying that we're going to be the ones to save Shaggy. And Because Goldie Roger is fighting against Newgate, he calls out to Rayleigh and he's like, my hands are tied. There's nothing I can do, even though I want to be the one to save Shakky myself. I'm going to leave her to you, Rayleigh. So we see Rayleigh and he jumps up and no hesitation. He is ready to save Shakky here. And he jumps up, he sees Shakky, he sees Summers, and Summers is actually getting ready to land the final blow on Shakky. And then we see Rayleigh, and he yells out Transcendent Hegon Crescent, which translates roughly to Red Spider Lily. And he hits Summers with it. Summer gets knocked flying through a wall like a cartoon animation. So it's like a brick wall, and there's just like a hole with the same silhouette of Summers going through the wall. And yeah, the it's called Red Spider Lily in English, kind of rough translated, and maybe that might be related to Amazon Lily in some way, just because Shakky, she's from Amazon Lily, so maybe he named his attack after the love of his life.
I think it would just be fitting, and like a boss, we actually see Rayleigh just putting his sword back, and he refers to the note that Shakky gave him, and he puts his hand out and he says, I'm here for you. It's really touching, and without trying to break things up too much, I just want to say I think this is the first time we've ever seen like Rayleigh in his full cloak, and I just want to say like the shirt he has under his cloak has a pattern that's reminiscent to the Kuja dresses with the snakes on it with the flowers, and also what we speculated to be the Mother Flame, which we see going into the automata on the moon. And then we see clashing outside. We get a close-up of Shakky's face, and she's just crying, and it's so touching and sentimental as she kind of just falls over into his arms, and they cry with each other, and she's like, Rayleigh, you're late. And he's crying, and he's like, I'm so sorry I let it come to this. And she just breaks down, and she's like, oh, I was so scared. And we see Roger and Gabon, and they're crying as well, and they're heartbroken that they couldn't win the prize. And they're like, save it for later, get a room, you two. And then we see, we've got Shakky, grab the rest of the treasure, and let's get out of here. So it seems that God Valley is concluding, but we know there's just more to come after this with the final clash between Garp and Roger versus the Rocks Pirates. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have no idea how this is actually going to shake out, because we also know, I'm speculating, actually, we don't know, but I'm speculating that the island gets destroyed in this battle as well. So, yeah, there's so much that we still know is going to happen, but we're getting pretty close to the end of God Valley, and honestly, so far it's been delivering. And that final clash with Marshall D. Teach, or sorry, not Marshall D. Teach, with Rox D. Xebec, Davy D. Xebec even, that's going to be really, really interesting, because maybe he gets enraged after he finds his wife Eris might have been slain or something. There's just so much that can potentially happen that, we can only speculate. We don't know for sure. But yeah, I'm really excited for this conclusion.
Emu can still be on the island for all we know.
It's plausible. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's not on there yet. We know that God's Knights can teleport, so we can assume that Emu could teleport from Marie-Joie directly to God's Valley. There's so many things that could happen here, yeah.
It's really so exciting. This was such a good chapter. I can't believe they finally got Shakky. This has been phenomenal. All right, again, this has been episode 42, chapter 1161 of One Piece, entitled A Love Ballad in a Hail of Arrows. Thanks for sailing with us. That's it for this voyage of the Void Century podcast. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you sail for One Piece content. Catch our bite-sized theories and lore on TikTok and Instagram Reels. Until next time, whether you're seeking the poneglyphs or unraveling the history behind the Will of the D, listen to the voice of all things, and we'll see you on our next voyage.